Aditi, right? Kashyapa and Aditi. Kashyapa and Aditi were the mother and father of Indra and a number of the demigods. So Twashta was one of their children. But he was a Brahmana, and Twashta had a son. Twashta had a son named Vishwarup. So go to Vishwarup, and he'll help you get your kingdom back. But one caution. What's that? Twashta's wife was from the side of Diti. He's in the Daitya dynasty. And he likes his mother. Vishwarup likes his mother. He has affection for his mother, like he has for his father. So when he does yagyas, just bear in mind, he has affection for his mother as he does for his father. No problem. I want my kingdom back. So he went to Vishwarup. He was a little reluctant, but he agreed. Vishwarup gave them a process of mantra meditation whereby he could protect himself from harm, called Narayana. You know the meaning, Narayana. Kavacha means shield. So he did. He became strong. Off they go. Demigods are going back to get their kingdom back, led by Indra. And when they come charging in, the demigods put up a fight, but the demons are too powerful, and so the demons flee. Got to pay attention. There's detail, because where we're headed is to explain who Vritrasura is. But before we find out who Vritrasura is, we have to find out who all these other people are. So Vishwarup helped Indra get the kingdom back. Now he's sitting as the king of heaven again. Yay! Hey, what else do you know? Vishwarup, do you know how to do yagyas where you can produce nectar? Because the gods, the devas, the demigods, they like amrita, an elixir of immortality. So yes, I know how to do that, yagya. So he did the yagya. And they were taking the benefit of that yagya, but he was saying mantras where some of that amrita would also go to his mother's relatives. And the mother's relatives are Daityas. And these are Adityas. And there's Daityas. It's us and them consciousness. And so Indra got really angry. And you know what Indra did? He took his sword and cut off the heads of Vishwarup. Oh, that was a big mistake. Big mistake. He underwent austerities for 1 year. Still, the father of Vishwarup, what's the father of Vishwarup's name? Starts with a T. I'm looking at, there's 3 students over here. T. Twashta, right? Twashta was his father. His father was furious. He's a Brahmana, and my son helped him regain his kingdom, and he cut off his head? So he did a yagya, Twashta, did a yagya. The purpose of the yagya was to create a demon that would kill Indra. But he made a mistake with the mantra. He made 1 syllable mistake, and instead of, and that was Vritrasura came out of the fire. Vritrasura came out of a fire, and he was looking like a demon, but he was to be killed by Indra, not to kill Indra, just because he mispronounced 1 syllable in the yagya. That's it. 1 syllable mistake, Altogether, the opposite effect. So you better know your mantras if you're going to do those yagyas. So he rose from the fire, tall as the sky, big red beard, big red hair, fiery eyes, huge trident, big sharp teeth, roaring. And the demons are really happy. Now we got a powerful leader. We're going to get that kingdom of heaven back from the demigods. And they charged the heavenly realm. Big battle. The demons, led by Vritrasura, were very strong. The demigods lost their kingdom again. So what did the demigods do? The demigods went to the shore of the Milk Ocean, offered prayers to Lord Vishnu, help. Vishnu admonished him, of course, you offended your spiritual master, now you cut off the heads of a Brahmin. So you got big reactions coming your way. So, if you want your kingdom back, here's my recommendation. Here's what you can do. You go to a very powerful Brahmana ascetic whose name is Dadichi. Dadichi is very generous and he's very austere. You ask Dadichi for his bones. That means you have to give up his body. You ask him for his bones. And when he gives you his bones, then you take his bones and give his bones to Vishvakarma, who's the architect of the demigods. Have him build a special thunderbolt weapon for you, and you'll be invincible. You'll be able to defeat Vritrasura. So they did. They went to Dadichi. He had some fun with them, but he gave them his bones. They took the bones to Vishvakarma. Vishvakarma fashioned a very, very special, powerful thunderbolt weapon. And Indra is now ready to go back and do battle with the demigods, with the demons. So battle, very powerful. The demons start to run from the battlefield. Vritrasura chastises them. What are you doing running from the battlefield? Kshatriyas don't run from the battlefield. Stop. They kept running. They were afraid. They weren't very heroic. Then some combat between Vritrasura and Indra. Indra had a big club. With all of his might, he threw his club to hit Vritrasura. Vritrasura stepped out of the way, caught the club in his little fingers, took the club and smashed Indra's elephant carrier in the head, knocked him to the ground. Blood all over the place. And Indra was stunned. And now I'm going to read. So now you know who Vritrasura is. He was the demon that was created from a fire, a yagya, by Twashta. Because Twashta's son, Vishwarup, had been killed by Indra. So it was to bring death to Indra, but he chanted the mantra wrong. So he was going to be killed by Indra instead of to be the one who killed Indra. Just one mantra, one part of one mantra wrong. One syllable wrong. It's not like that with the holy name. Suppose you don't pronounce Krishna's name right or something. Krishna knows who you're calling, and there's no rules like there are too many rules for karmakanda sacrifices. If there's a little mistake or something was not right, you don't get the result. You can get the opposite result. Suppose you do some yagya that you want to do well in your exams, and you get one syllable wrong. Phew. Now, we don't do mantras to do well in our exams. But supposing somebody had that idea, they wanted to worship Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and they said one syllable wrong, so they'd fail all their exams. No good. Have you heard in India of the university called BITS Pilani, Birla Institute of Technology and Science? You've heard of it? Mom and Dad have heard of it. BITS Pilani. I visited there several times, and there's a little Saraswati temple. And all the students, before and after exams, they go there and worship Saraswati to do well in their exams. It's a very popular place. The temple. It's a little temple. And they just, I want to do well in my exam. Please help me do well in my exam. And they afterwards. And otherwise, they don't go. So they have lots of exams. They go a lot. It's a very prestigious. You've heard of India Institute of Technology, IIT? I'm asking your boys here. Yeah, you've heard, IIT. There's one in Chicago, Illinois Institute of Technology. But in India, it's India Institute of Technology. They have branches all over the place. Anyway, back to Vritrasura. There's this big demon, but we're going to hear him speak transcendental knowledge, which is really puzzling because he's a demon. At least that's how he looks. He doesn't look gentle and elevated and anything. So he's going to speak some really heavy things to Indra first, and then he's going to speak some nice things. So this is from the 6th canto Srimad Bhagavatam. 6th canto Srimad Bhagavatam. Canto, chapter 11. Text, starting with text number 14. 6:11:14. We're going to read a few verses, and then we'll finish it up tomorrow evening. Sri Vritrasura said, speaking to Indra, "He who has killed the Brahmana," that's Indra, you killed my brother, Vishwarup, who was a Brahmana. He who has killed the Brahmana, he who has killed his, that is his guru, Vishwarup was serving as guru of Indra. Indeed, he who has killed my brother is now, by good fortune, standing before me, face to face as my enemy. O most abominable one, when I pierce your stone-like heart with my trident, I shall be freed from my debt to my brother. Chivalrous talk. Text 15. Only for the sake of living in the heavenly planets, you killed my elder brother, a self-realized, sinless, qualified Brahmana who has been appointed your chief priest. He was your spiritual master, but although you entrusted him with the performance of your sacrifice, you later mercilessly severed his heads from his body in the way one butchers an animal. Indra, you are bereft of all shame, mercy, glory, and good fortune. Deprived of these good qualities by the reactions of your fruitive activities, you are to be condemned, even by the man-eater Rakshasas. Now I shall pierce your body with my trident, And after you die with great pain, even fire will not touch you. Only the vultures will eat your body. Chivalrous talk. You are naturally cruel. If the other demigods, unaware of my prowess, follow you by attacking me with raised weapons, I shall sever their heads with this sharp trident. With those heads, I shall perform a sacrifice to Bhairava and the other leaders of the ghosts, along with their hordes. Okay, that's the chivalrous talk. Now he turns the table, or he starts talking in a different way. Because Vritrasura knows that the thunderbolt that Indra has is meant to kill him. And he's ready. Why is he ready? Because he's got this really awful asura body, demon body, and he doesn't want to be an asura because he's a person of elevated consciousness. We'll hear shortly. How do those two fit together? A body that looks like this, a consciousness that looks just very different than the body looks. So Vritrasura continues, but if in this battle you cut off my head with your thunderbolt and kill my soldiers, O Indra, O great hero, I shall take great pleasure in offering my body to other living entities, such as jackals and vultures. I shall then be relieved of my obligations to the reactions of my karma. And my fortune will be to receive the dust from the lotus feet of great devotees like Narada Muni. Wait a minute. Why is he talking about Narada Muni and what's all this? Because before it was like chivalrous talk, and now it's like, see over here, there's my neck, and you just take that thunderbolt and apply that thunderbolt over here, separate the head part from the rest of my body, and I'll be relieved of all my bad karma. What was the bad karma of Vritrasura? Well, there's some later chapters that tell how he became Vritrasura. Who was he before he was Vritrasura? And who he was before he was Vritrasura was a great king. The great king's name, are you familiar with the name Chitra Ketu? Yeah? Okay. So that's who he was before Chitra Ketu. And at the end of Chitra Ketu's life, before he became Vritrasura, he was a very elevated person. Very elevated. Very elevated. He had direct darshan with Lord Sankarshan and offered prayers to him, etc., etc. Anyway, he was cursed by Parvati to become a demon, so he became Vritrasura. But he had the consciousness of a pure devotee, not just a pure devotee, a perfected devotee, topmost devotee. And that's going to come up. Well, probably we'll get to it tomorrow. But he wants to be relieved of that offense that he made in his previous life. Although he didn't make an offense, that Parvati cursed him to become a demon, so that he would relieve that curse. Finished. Back home, back to Godhead. Please use your thunderbolt weapon and do it. O king of the demigods, Indra, since I, your enemy, am standing before you, why don't you hurl your thunderbolt at me? Although your attack upon me with your club was certainly useless, like a request of money from a miser, the thunderbolt you carry will not be useless. You need have no doubts about this. Why? It won't be useless because Vishnu gave his blessings. Take the bones of Dadichi, take the bones of Dadichi to Vishwakarma, Vishwakarma make a thunderbolt, And this will be the means of killing Vritrasura. You got Vishnu's benediction. So don't hesitate. Look, you want your kingdom, and I want to go back to Godhead. So we both get what we want. Then he starts to speak about materialistic people, what materialistic people want. He's indirectly, in a polite, nice way, calling Indra a materialist. Because although he is a devotee, he's so attached to his being the king of heaven that he does really bad stuff sometimes. Why do people do bad stuff sometimes? Even when they're very pious and they have the fruits of piety, they're very wealthy and very this and very that. And the answer is because of pride. He was proud. And he didn't want somebody else to have mine. I and mine. My wealth, my position, my power. I and mine. Indra's not a pure devotee. He is an elevated person, for sure. We shouldn't think of him otherwise. But there's pride. And when there's pride, we can do bad stuff. It happens again and again and again in the Bhagavatam, and it happens again and again and again in everyday life. In the world that we move in, people do bad stuff without even thinking about it when there's pride. There's other reasons that people do bad stuff, but pride is a big one. I'll read one more verse. O Indra, king of heaven, the thunderbolt you carry to kill me has been empowered by the prowess of Lord Vishnu himself and the strength of Dadichi's austerities. Since you have come here to kill me in accordance with Lord Vishnu's order, there is no doubt that I shall be killed by the release of your thunderbolt. Lord Vishnu has sided with you. Therefore, your victory, opulence, and all good qualities, except for forgetfulness and pride, all good qualities are assured. So he wants release from that asura body, and the asura body was the result of the curse of Parvati, simply because he was misunderstood. You know the story, right? You know the story? King Chitra Ketu, after seeing and having discussion with Lord Sankarshan, Chitra Ketu became the ruler of one of the heavenly planets called Vidyadhara Loka. And he was traveling around in his 747. No, his heavenly Vimana, airplane. And he went to visit his friend. He was in such an elevated position that he had a friendship with Lord Shiva. And when he went to visit Lord Shiva, it was at Mount Kailash, abode of Lord Shiva. And there was a whole assembly. Narada was there, Vyasa was there, many great sages were there, listening to Lord Shiva giving a nice Bhagavatam class. And when the class was going on, King Chitra Ketu was soaring above them in his Vimana, and he made, over the side of the aircraft, he made some remark. Oh, look at this. Lord Shiva is sitting there with Parvati on his lap in a public setting, as if he was, making a negative remark. But actually he was appreciating that who beside Lord Shiva can do like this and not be agitated. Lord Shiva is the most exalted person. That's what he was intending to speak. Parvati misunderstood. Parvati shook her finger and scolded him and cursed him. You've offended Lord Shiva. You don't understand his greatness. I curse you. Become a demon. That's what happened. And so his Vimana came to the ground. He got off the Vimana, came before Parvati with folded hands, said, I accept your curse. I've been misunderstood, but that's okay. There must be some plan of the Lord here. And I was actually glorifying Lord Shiva, but somehow you've misunderstood my intention. That's okay. And I'll respect to you. And he circumambulated Parvati and went away and became a demon. Vritrasura. So that was the reaction that he wanted to have freedom from. And his interest was, as it was in his previous life as the king. He wanted to go back to God. He wanted to be with Krishna. But he got this other body because of Parvati's curse. And by Indra using this very specially fashioned thunderbolt weapon, he could achieve that purpose. And Indra gets his, no problem. You want the kingdom of heaven? It's yours. So part of the reason for taking this story and discussing it this evening is I got inspired from this morning. We had a class at 5:30 in the morning with the Chinese devotees on 6th Canto Bhagavatam, and this story came up, and I was encouraging them, I think you should read what Vritrasura says, because what's coming up is he speaks on the highest platform. He speaks to Indra, I'll summarize. He speaks to Indra that your Lord and my Lord is the same. Your Lord is Lord Vishnu, my Lord is Lord Vishnu, our Lord is the same. And he will fulfill your desire, he will fulfill my desire. We're so indebted to our Lord who fulfills our desires. And then he kind of loses it. He starts speaking as if he's with Lord Vishnu, and wishing to be with Vishnu, and wishing to be with Narada. And how does Narada come into the picture? Because Narada helped Chitra Ketu get to that elevated position in his previous life. He was still holding the lotus feet of Narada very dear to him, even in his next life. In his next life as a demon, Vritrasura. He wants association of Narada. He wants unalloyed devotion to Lord Vishnu. And he wants to be of service to Indra so he can get his kingdom back, no problem. He goes really way up there. So we'll hear those verses tomorrow. So a few lessons. Don't offend your spiritual master. Don't cut his head off. Because there's reaction for that. Even when most important lesson, even when it looks like misfortune, as happened with Chitra Ketu, he was just misunderstood. And misfortune came because he was misunderstood. But it was actually good fortune because he went swiftly back to Godhead. Something very similar happened to Maharaj Pariksit, and different, of course, but misfortune came to him. He was cursed to die in 7 days. And he got a fast one-way ticket to the spiritual world, along with Shukadeva Goswami's association. I mean, that's fantastic. And he accepted it that way. He didn't accept, oh, wait a minute, I've been a good king and this isn't fair. I'm being mistreated. He didn't go there. He just accepted, and because of the situation, we now have Srimad Bhagavatam. Of course, Krishna could have made the arrangement to have Shukadeva Goswami speak Bhagavatam some other place in some other way. But Maharishi Parikshit got it's a nice service to do for us, because he likes serving people of this world, and that's our situation. We're worldly people, for sure. I'm really looking forward to reading what how Vritrasura speaks about. I mean, it's almost as if he loses touch with the fact that there's anybody present. He just goes into this trance-like glorification of the personality of Godhead and his wonderful nature. And then hearing Vritrasura speak such elevated talk, Indra is stunned. He's got this powerful thunderbolt, and he's looking at the power thunderbolt. I can't use this. He is the topmost devotee. So he's like spaced out. So Vritrasura knows what to do. He takes his club and swings it at Indra. Instantly Indra's, going into action and stops the club and the whole thing. The spear, the trident. And he ends up with his thunderbolt weapon cutting off the arms of Vritrasura. Vritrasura is still fighting, even without his arms. They have some other exchange, verbal exchange. Indra cuts off his head. Takes a long time. Big, thick neck. And Vritrasura goes back to Godhead. And Indra has just killed the Brahmin. 2 brothers. Whew. Bad. Why? I want a kingdom. Bad. So there's reaction for stuff like that. And that comes later in the chapter. Okay, let's see if there's some discussion. Vritrasura, Chitra Ketu, Narada Muni, Indra. Offenses.
Harishna Maharaj, please accept.
He'll just speak, he'll move the controls a little bit. Go ahead, speak.
Harishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisance, Salva Srila Prabhupada. So one thing which I was you are saying when King Chitra Ketu wasn't intended to say something negative or think negative.
Yes.
About the situation where the Lord Shiva and Parvati was in.
Right. He was not intending to be critical.
So
he was intending to praise.
So a lot of times, even I are spur of the time movement, we might say something to the devotees, but
yeah, our intention is good, and it's perceived the opposite of good. It happens, yes.
So in those situations, so
what to do?
The others might not take it negatively, but how do we take?
If you're being misunderstood, how do you process it?
Yeah.
That's your question?
Yeah.
Well, my favorite answer these days is it depends. And there are various options you can select from a menu of options. One is you just smile. Another is you wait for the right opportunity to explain yourself. So it doesn't look like you're just defending, you're just standing by the truth. I mean, a classic, a real easy way for us to think about this is twice in Dwarka, even Krishna was misunderstood, right? The Shambhataka Jewel story and to the two versions of things where he was being criticized. Wrongly, he just wasn't being understood properly. So what did Krishna do? He stood by the truth. That's what Krishna did. So that's a very simple option that we can select. If your intention is good and it's being perceived otherwise, you stick by the truth, because the truth will prevail in the end anyways. And it's true that the truth will prevail. It may take a while, and not everyone is going to accept the truth of a situation. But you just stand by the truth. Dharma rakshata rakshataha. Right? So satyam, truthfulness, is a dharmic principle. You just abide by truth. Look at Bharata. Big time, he was misunderstood. But what helped, so this is it's a good lesson, what helped was his intention was different than what people perceived. And because his intention was different than what people perceived, and his character matched his intention, they understood. Quickly, they understood. Now, it doesn't always get cleared up quickly, where a misunderstanding gets cleared up quickly. This nice story from about Rupa Goswami apparently laughing when a lame Brahmana went by. He was misunderstood, and it got cleared up. That's another thing, when it goes to some higher authority, and the higher authority can intervene and clear the thing up. Or just, time. So, that my answer, it depends, means you have some options. But, two things. Don't depart from truth. And don't react, but you choose wisely. Don't depart from truth, and stay in the platform of, I wish to please Krishna. I'm not wishing for recognition for my good intention, and the misunderstanding of my bad intention go away. We had this discussion over the weekend about being appreciated. It's going to come up over the next weekend also. It's the topic was, is it a human need to be appreciated? There's transcendental appreciation, and there's the other kind. And if it's the other kind, then it's not necessarily wholesome. It can be toxic, in fact. It can be more disturbing to oneself and relationships with others by an expectation that's unfulfilled like that. And it happens. So, what to speak of being having your intentions misunderstood. Here's another principle. When you have that happen to you, be very careful about evaluating someone else's intention without really knowing necessarily what their intention is. This is one of Narada Muni's logics. A man who's been pricked by thorns feels the pain of another who's being pricked by thorns. So don't make the mistake of assessing the intention of someone else when you don't really know. And what do you do in that situation? You have some options. That's the it depends. You can just, yeah, I probably don't know the other person's intention. We're going to be discussing exactly this point. We're going to be discussing over the weekend. There's a very nice story. I mean, it's a long-winded answer to your question, but the very nice story about Saint Francis of Assisi. Have you heard his name before? No? Assisi is in Italy, and there's one of the saints, very celebrated saints, who is Saint Francis. He's not one of the the original 12 disciples of Christ, but he's a very celebrated Christian priest. And we're going to discuss the story, but when you should assume if someone misunderstood you, this is what he's telling to his assistant. What real joy is even when you're, without the detail, even if you're treated harshly and unreasonably, and you're being called names because they think that you're a fake and a phony and an imposter and get out of here and harsh. Take it that the Supreme Lord is having this person speak this way to you, and that actually deep inside the person knows you're not a cheater and a rascal and an imposter and a this and a that. But that's okay, because the intention of the Lord is behind his words. And so you're feeling joy. Anyway, it's an interesting story. It's an elevated person. At least you can say, like Paramatma realized. Maybe to some degree Bhagavan realized. But he's not thinking in terms of the body. So you go to if you're misunderstood, go to your relationship with Krishna. You're at Krishna's feet, and you're looking to Krishna and saying, my intention has been misunderstood. What would you like me to do? How can I best serve you in this situation? Don't depart from that, and don't depart from truth. And then there's multiple options. The options will open if you take those two positions. And if you don't take those two positions, it's very painful. It's dark. And you don't see too many options. You can get angry, you can get depressed, you can feel hurt. I know somebody who's, he has been using this word hurt a whole lot of late. They feel hurt. But, there's options besides feeling hurt. You feel your relationship with Krishna and stand by the truth. Okay? Long answer to a simple question. Okay. I'd like you to be able to read this Saint Francis of Assisi topic. I sent it to, can you remind me to send it, and then you can send it to him. We'll be discussing it over the weekend. Something else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Wish you a very happy and Krishna conscious birthday. Thank you for saving me. Maharaj, I had a realization when you were mentioning about Vritrasura, that not judging somebody externally. Like, I would like to see the face of Indra when he was saying this, like how shocked everyone might be. But, like sometime somebody comes from outside, new to temple, but I see that simplicity in their heart, so.
Good.
I was just connecting that with.
Good. Very good. Yeah, we can't, the adage is, the cliche is, you can't judge a book by its cover. Marketing, it's all about the cover and not what's inside. But anyway, you have to see what's what it's like inside. Good. Good. Okay. Is someone else? Okay, over here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. It's a continuation to that question. So often when we are in that situation, we tell ourselves this and we try to convince ourselves, but the journey from that incident to acceptance, sometimes it's a long journey.
Yes.
And
Very
moment to
uncomfortable.
moment, it's
Uncomfortable.
hard. Yeah.
While you're traversing. So go ahead.
So, and while we remind ourselves of this is the right behavior to set in, but that long journey kind of brings the worst out of us after maybe some time, because we may give up after some time. How to handle those feelings, or at least, because the words you said was really touched me, where you said either anger or depressed. So sometimes I see an output as, okay, either you go express your frustration to someone or just put it in your heart and then feel depressed.
Well, it's Daivhiyesha Gunamayi. It's the modes of nature. The mode of ignorance and the mode of passion. And take your pick. But you don't pick from those two. Mama Maya Duratyaya. What do you do if you're struggling with those? Ma maybe, so that's the solution. And so how do you get the solution? You just keep practicing the solution. You'll it's like, how do you chant attentive japa? It takes a sankalpa, a lot of effort, and a lot of mercy from the holy name and the Vaishnavas. And you stay at it. That's how you do it. You cultivate abhyasa, you cultivate, you practice, and then you practice, and by right means, purification comes. The lower modes subside. It's the Bhagavatam. By regularly hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, the influence of the modes of ignorance and passion subside. So we stay with the process, with sincere intention of getting on the other side of that struggle with ignorance and passion. The depression and the anger, ignorance and passion. It's to take shelter of Krishna. That's our process. Now, there's little adjustments you could make. This technique, that tool, etc. But the principle is transcendental shelter. So keep good association, and keep striving to chant your japa attentively, because that's where the real turbocharger is in being successful in this other. Say it negatively. If you don't strive to chant with attention, you'll just continue that struggle indefinitely, and eventually toss your arms up in the air and say, I give up. I surrender to Maya.
Maharaj, can I ask another question?
Sure.
So this is in more relation to reading Bhagavatam, and especially when we hear prayers. At least the part I struggle with is, some of the prayers are very relatable, but some prayers are like, for example, when Krishna is glorified, that he's beyond the material world, beyond the modes of material nature and whatnot. How can one really understand the mood of the prayer, whoever is saying the prayer? Because some of these, we don't have at least I don't have experience of these. How can one understand the prayers? Because sometimes I seem to just cruise through the sections that I feel.
Well, I have several things to say in response to that question. We don't, the prayer may be spoken from different levels of realization. Some may be just through the eyes of Scripture, one knows this. Or it may be, I have a glimpse of it. Or it may be, I totally connect with it. And, because we don't hear those kinds of prayers from the resident of Vrindavan, so they're in another level of consciousness altogether. So the offering of a prayer depends upon, where is it coming from, depends upon their realization or the maturity of their consciousness, spiritual consciousness. And so if you're not there, what can you do? There's two questions. And what you can do is the prayers that you relate to, you do them, a lot. This is a principle that I've learned. You do something that gives you strength, and in areas that you're not so strong, you borrow strength from over here and you apply it over to there where you're not so strong. It's natural. Whatever it is. Somebody likes to do service. Somebody likes kirtan. Somebody likes studying. Somebody likes deity worship. Somebody likes... Do a lot of it. And get really purified through those things that you're making that Krishna connection nicely. And then when knowing that there's not the same kind of strength in other areas, borrow strength from over here and apply it over there. With the idea that Krishna should be pleased. And I want to stand before Krishna where Krishna is pleased. So he's been very kind. He's given me this nice connection. I know that other connection isn't so nice. I'd like it to be nice because I'd like Krishna to be pleased. Not just, for achievement's sake, but for pleasing Krishna's sake.
Maharaj, can you give an example when you say borrow strength?
Yeah. Let's say some people, not everybody, but some people, they like to do service. I was somewhere previously, and someone was objecting. How is it that of the 5 kinds of primary devotional service, it doesn't speak about washing pots? And this is an elevated Vaishnava. So I said it's part of deity worship. It's mentioned, and it's just a it doesn't give all the details, but the kitchen is an extension of the altar, and the activities in the kitchen are for the deity. And, so cleaning the pots, you may not be a Brahmin, but you go clean the pots. So some people that's their favorite thing. Not everybody, but some people, that's their favorite thing. So they do a lot of that. And they get their heart clean. It's because when you clean Krishna's pots, you make your heart clean. When the heart becomes clean, then you can start having, an equal appreciation for things other than what you're doing. Somebody likes book distribution, somebody likes kirtan, and they don't like japa so much. There's a lot of those people. And so you do what gives you strength. But know that the purpose of that strength is to help you in areas where it's not so strong. Pretty interesting example, washing pots. But he was serious, a nice man. Okay, something else? Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
I wish you happy Krishna conscious birthday. And my friend Vishesha Shobha Mataji wanted to greet you personally, but she is somewhere in Atlanta and she wanted to personally greet you happy birthday. So Maharaj, my question is since I'm eager to learn more about Bhagavatam, I'm meditating on Gaurang Chandra Das.
You meditating on?
I'm meditating and reading on Gaurang Chandra Das' book Bhagavata Pravaha. So I was reading that book as a glimpse, to get the glimpse of Bhagavatam. Till now I'm the 10th chapter, 10th canto, and it's 10th chapter in that book. So wherever I see, I could see Indra's part everywhere. And I could not feel like whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. He's supposed to be a good because he is from Aditi's womb, but he has some pride.
Yeah.
I could feel he's selfish too sometimes. But how can I understand his devotion to Lord Vishnu? But he's all Vishnu.
Here's how you understand it.
Vishnu is always bad.
He's not always. Here's how you understand it. How does Krishna or Vishnu respond when he does, bad things? How does Vishnu or Krishna respond when he does bad things? He corrects him. He doesn't dismiss him. He doesn't chop him. He corrects him. Just like this one example. He came to Vishnu saying, "Oh, I lost my kingdom. Of course, you did this, you did that, you have to stop this and that thing. Now here's what you can do. Here's how you get your kingdom back." But there was a trick. He was getting Didici's association. Not a trick, but it was by Didici's association, he became elevated. Anyway, but there's details. To speak with the principle, how do you understand his elevation? By how Vishnu or Krishna responds with him consistently. Yeah, but he doesn't slap him. He doesn't, hurt him. He has very interesting ways. The whole, Govardhan, even before the stopping of the Indra yagya, Krishna was contemplating. Indra's proud. I want to curb his pride. Your question was, how do you understand his exaltedness?
Some lessons from his life history, maybe.
Well, I'm pointing to your same question asked in a different way. Yes. Here, let's go the negative side, because you seem to want to go to the negative side. Let's go to the negative side. He's not just a denizen of heaven. He's not just a deva. He's the king. What does that tell you? Piety. Mega piety. Now, what happens when you do lots of piety? You get lots of fruits of piety, isn't it? And fruits of piety, Janma Aishvar Shruta Shri. He's got all 3 or 4 of those. But when you get lots and lots and lots and lots of fruits of piety, there's a tendency to become proud. When the heart is not pure, there's a tendency to become proud. Somebody was asking your question in a different way. This is about 2 weeks ago. Did Indra make a mistake? Did Vishnu make a mistake? No. Did Manu make a mistake by appointing that one as Indra? She could have been given somebody else the post of Indra, because look at all these mistakes. And my answer was, you take somebody else, put them in that position, and here's all this opulence. And they're going to be proud too. Because the formula is, when the heart's not pure and the fruits of piety, is you're going to be proud. And it's not just for Indra, it's for any one of us. Fruits of piety without a heart that's pure is pride. And he's got lots of piety, he's got lots of fruits of piety, and he's got lots of pride. And when somebody is proud, according to Narada Muni in his assessment of Nalakuvara and Manigriva, you can do really hurtful things and have no problem. You can be cruel. Specifically in the purports, Prabhupada speaks about animal killing. Because you're proud and you don't think anything about it. Try it sometime. I've tried it sometime. have a discussion with someone that's not just a, they're going to save you kind of Christian, but, a very reasonable person. And have a discussion about killing animals and watch what happens. With reason, not shaking a finger. Anyway, my point is that pride is there. And when pride is there, one cannot see. And then one can do cruel things. Animal killing is a cruel thing. And one can do it. They keep pets and they go eat meat. I mean, so how come they can't see it? I mean, some people see it. So, it's due to pride because the heart's not pure. And it goes with the territory, being Indra. Want to hear some good news? Okay. The next Indra is going to be Bali Maharaj. No pride. No material attachment. Zero. He already demonstrated. Zero. But that's not normal. Normal is someone takes the post of Indra because they haven't gone back to Godhead because their heart's not pure. They're not unalloyed devotees. So that's how you should understand. That's the negative side. But the positive side, how are you to regard someone who does bad stuff? Look at how Krishna or Vishnu deal with them. They're very dear. He's very dear to them. He has a very important post in the orchestration of the affairs of the universe, which is very important for Lord Vishnu. And he puts this person in charge of the King of Heaven. So he protects him. And protecting him means, he corrects when he gets proud. Even he preemptively corrects him when he gets proud, not just after he does some bad stuff. That's how you should understand Indra, how you should look at Indra. Or somebody else that does bad stuff. Assuming that they, there's some piety within, but they've messed up. And that's it. I really like this story, this St. Francis story. You'll hear it. She'll send it.
Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Yes, in the back. No, over the other side.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. So in continuation, I just wanted to clarify. So when Indra, he commits mistakes, he falls down and takes birth in lower planetary systems, or when they retire, kind of after the duty, they go to Krishna. What happens?
Who?
Indra.
What happens after Indra's life? That's what you want to know?
Yes.
Why do you think he goes to a lower position?
Because they, after having pride, they do mistakes like this, and then.
Well, he can also become corrected. He underwent great austerity and atonement and this and that. Read the rest of the sixth canto, this whole section. Lots and lots and lots of austerities. And then an Abhishek where he was cleansed of his sinful reactions. So, he had the atonement process and well-wishers to help him get on the other side of the reactions. Because prayashchitta, or atonement, is for eradication of sins or mistakes. Okay?
So at the, we know that Indra's position changes, now next. So then they go back to Godhead, and they're
well, it
not.
Depends. It depends on the consciousness that they attain, and their state of purity, as well as their attachment for the personality of Godhead. The destiny, same for anybody, not just Indra. Anybody. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. You know the verse, right? Chajatante kalevaram. whatever he remembers. So it depends on what he remembers. Depends on his consciousness. He's done some service. He has lots of piety. He has the fruits of piety, and he's engaging them properly sometimes and improperly sometimes. And so it depends on what he's attached to, and there's different Indras too. It's not only every Indra is the same as every other Indra. Every Brahma is not the same as every other Brahma. That's a detail too.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Whatever consciousness is fixed on, that's where he'll go. How are we doing? Anyone else? Okay. Anything online? No? Srila Prabhupada ki jai.